and welcome to Two Words Wolves Pod. I'm Ryan Eichten, and with me, after a Game 5 Timberwolves loss to the Spurs to go down 3-2, is Leo Sun. Leo, how you doing?
Ryan, I was able to wash the taste out of that disgusting performance that the Wolves put up in Game 5 right there with the Lynx game against the Phoenix Mercury, a rematch of the second round of the playoffs last year. And I will say I'm in a better mood because I watched that entire Lynx Mercury game. The Lynx ended up getting their first win. Nia Coffey hit a huge three, Minnesota native, and it was felt good to watch Alyssa Thomas miss 7 free throws in that game, in a close game. It's kind of a revenge for Fee there. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. But we are going to talk about the Wolves here, so I guess we got to go back to that.
Yeah, at least the Lynx get a win. I guess my mind will eventually shift to the Lynx, but, at least for me and for you too. The focus is obviously on on the Timberwolves and another blowout loss to the Spurs. 2 of the 3 games the Wolves have lost in this series have been in blowout fashion. I thought they were in it. It wasn't quite just like Game 2 was just like from the jump. The Wolves were out of it. The game was tied briefly in the third quarter. It wasn't quite that, but ultimately the Spurs just overwhelmed them for the second time in this series. And I think for me, there was like a list of things, right, that I would have wanted to see, okay, XYZ go right. And I think we've seen individually, like them being able to bother Wemby. I think we've seen a little bit out of that, including Game 4, where he elbows Naz Reid in the neck, and that's the biggest reason why they win Game 4 is Wemby doesn't play the last 2.5 quarters. And I thought in Game 1, same thing. They found enough offense in that game with Wemby, with being able to space Wemby off the floor, not off the floor, but like just away from the paint enough. They limited him greatly offensively in that game. So we've seen it in stretches, but really for the grand majority of the series, all the little like swing points I feel like have gone against the Wolves toward the Spurs. And in the beginning of this game, Wemby has, I think, 16 points in the first quarter and is just insane. Same thing with the one close game the Wolves lost, Game 3. Wemby, that's like just an all-time performance. And what I tweeted out is like, ultimately the Wolves have just not at any point in this series is really, aside from Ant going supernova for stretches, including down the stretch of Game 5 and in the game down the stretch of Game 1 as well, the Wolves just have not been able to find any sort of consistent offense with Wemby on the court. It's just a complete game-changing, series-changing type of defensive player where the Wolves just have nothing. And we'll talk about why that is, or maybe what they can possibly do these hopefully last 2 games of the series to flip it. But that in this series, that's what I keep coming back to, is just fundamentally when Wemby is on the court, the Wolves are just scoring at a clip that just gives them no chance to win these basketball games.
Yeah, it's so many places to go with it. The whole Wemby factor is really interesting. I mean, Wemby got another free one in today on Jaden McDaniels. I think it was in the second half. It was he got called for offensive fouls assigned, but as he was dribbling past, his right arm extends, his off arm, and it just smacks Jaden in the face. And so
yeah, that was a basketball play though. The Game 4 elbow
it was a basketball play, but he's getting his money's worth. I mean, I don't like harping on like the refereeing because that is not why the Wolves lost, but it's just kind of frustrating to kind of see. I think the game started basically with Anthony Edwards getting fouled, taking a 3-point attempt, and he shoots 3, and then Wemby goes for a 3-point attempt that Rudy closes out on, and they go take that to review and upgrade to a flagrant, which is, again, I know weird. The landing space was not always the exact same, but just the optics of it is like it's bad. It's bad looking.
It was weird, if nothing else. Yeah.
Right. It's like, hey, let's review this one, but now the other one. And so, yeah, there's so many places to kind of start with it. But I think starting with, for me at least, the thing that really stuck out to this game, in this game to me, was the performance of the Wolves starting front court of Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert. And you can almost even put Jaden McDaniels in there just because of the foul trouble he was that limited. I mean, he played so well that I factor him as the reason why they did bad, because he couldn't stay on the court long enough. He did ultimately play 30 minutes, but just as the game got away was really when he was on the bench there. So that was really tough to see, because without looking, I don't know if you already know this, Ryan. I'm usually are scanning pretty thoroughly there, but without looking, how many turnovers do you think Julius Randle had this game?
I did. He didn't have any. I did know
Yeah, he
that.
didn't have any, right? Which is like the most like WTF like kind of thing because it felt like he had a lot. Like I could have sworn it happened, but I don't know if it's worse that it looked like he played that bad and still on the scoreboard had zero turnovers. I
He
mean,
had
he did
one
go six
assist
to
though.
yeah, one assist, 6 to 17 from the field. Just a lot of really bad decision making, just kind of grinding things down, going into a crowd. I mean, those are all the worst habits that we see from Julius Randle. And I don't like playing armchair therapist or psychiatrist here either, but just I don't know where he's at. I mean, we've talked about this throughout the season. There's been so many times in the calendar year 2026 where it's where is Julius Randle right now? Where is his head? Because he is kind of a statue when he's not on the ball. He's really like going for weird offensive rebound crashes from up top, which you're not supposed to do. That helps spur the Spurs in transition, and it just made it really rough. And Rudy, which just had no impact out there, and it was really tough because he had trouble catching the ball. Again, kind of the worst things that we've seen from Rudy in his time here kind of came to fruition. And I don't want to like hold him at the stake to that because of one bad game, but you can't have that in a game like this where, like you said, it was still a close game. It was literally a tie game with I think 6 minutes left in the third quarter. It was hanging right there, and then it just kind of went off the rails, and Rudy just didn't do enough to help. And so the front court situation really hurt. Nas, I mean, he scored 12 points, not on great efficiency. I mean, 3 of 7 from three is pretty good, I guess. But when you don't have any type of a backup big, that can kind of help pick up the slack in a game where it's like you really need to slow down someone on the front court. It becomes a little bit more glaring. I'm not saying that Kyle Anderson or Johan Berenger is going to be the answer here, but I mean, when Nas isn't really supporting anything on the defensive end, a couple bad fouls, it's just tough. And so, yeah, I think the front court really suffered today.
Yeah, I mean it's just thinking about the defense. It's been this whole series where obviously Wemby's locking down the paint, but the Spurs guards and wings are so good at pressuring the ball up top, taking away easy passes, and then kind of really they're playing all out defense up top, and they're just like fine with half of the time you get past them, they're fine with it because then you're just rolling them right to the rim to Wemby. So their guards and wings are taking away open threes, and Wemby's taking away the rim. So there just really isn't much room. But yeah, let's talk about Julius because obviously he's the main pain point of this game where he's just really bad. Like there's not much else to say. Not any other way to put it. He's just really bad, and obviously the Spurs have a lot to do with that. But one assist, and I think he had the same number last game. Like he just they need the Julius that was on track to make the All-Star game from December, and they really haven't seen that player since. And it brings up all sorts of big picture questions for the offseason with him and that roster spot and a lot. We'll save that for the offseason, obviously, but like fundamentally, he has not been good enough. He is like their second, or at least during the regular season, was their second most important offensive player. And it just hasn't offensively, especially just in this entire postseason, hasn't been there. There's been far too many in this series, just like classic Julius Randle stuff, like not getting back, making poor decisions with the ball. Last game, game 4, turnovers. This game didn't have any, but like, he's just not an impactful player out there. And what's interesting is like, I think people are calling to remove him from the starting lineup, and I actually wouldn't do that. Not because I don't think it's warranted or that their best lineup is with him on the bench, but because, and this is kind of the weird part, is if they are somehow going to win these next 2 games in this series, I really believe that either in both or at least one of the games, they're going to have to get a big Julius Randle game. So fundamentally, you just have to keep him in the starting lineup because if you move him to the bench, you're going to lose him. And I think if you lose Julius Randle, you're not going to win the series. Now, the fair pushback to that is, why would you think Julius has that in him to have one of these big games? And my response to that is, well, I don't. And that's why I'm not very optimistic that the Wolves are going to win this series. But I don't really see the other path to them winning these next 2 games without at least Julius having some sort of better game. So unfortunately, I don't see moving him to the bench as a viable option, especially if Rudy is probably in a similar spot with the starting lineup as well.
Yeah, the bar has gotten so low with Julius where it's like you even look at game four where he had, you could say like two, maybe three good plays at the end of the game where he had an offensive rebound kick out that led to Nas miss, but led to offensive rebound putback, and he had that really awesome dime to Rudy Gobert. But like to us, we're like, come on, man, just give us one good quarter. It's like if that's a good Julius Randle game. He had one good quarter, and it just sucks because yeah, I mean we saw him at his prime. If anything, it was probably last postseason when he was playing obviously more inferior teams in the Curryless Warriors and against the Lakers, the old Lakers. But it's like where is that guy? He's just not playing like in the same way that we're used to seeing with that same force. And there's a tweet that someone put out, I think it was after game four or during game four, that like just was cracking me up where it said like when Julius Randle gets the ball, it's like in a scary movie and the protagonists are going into the basement. It's like, no, don't go there. So that is a feeling I get sometimes, and it's sad because we know he's capable of so much more. And so I don't know what the answer is from him because it really feels like it's between the ears with them. I was listening to formerly the Starters, now No Dunks podcast now, and I listen to them every day, and they were talking about how they were getting like secondhand embarrassment watching Julius Randle out there. Like he's getting embarrassed on the defensive end because he can't stop anyone. They've put him on guards for whatever reason, and it's just been very like minimal impact. And then on the offensive end, yeah, he just seems very clearly lost. And when he shoots a three, it's like that kind of has like no chance. And if they do go in, it's kind of like, all right, well, it's kind of lucky. Yeah, so I don't know what the move is going to be. I mean, I predicted at the start of the series or before the series was that the Wolves are going to win in six. Obviously, that's out the window. But yeah, like I agree with you. If they want to have any chance, Julius Randle has to show up. We could talk about the guard play later, but I was encouraged by that. But yeah, I mean, with Rudy as well too. I mean, we were just talking about how Rudy can play. Rudy can play in this series, and it seems like he's just taken two steps back again.
Yeah, and Jake Painting tweeted this out that this is kind of starting to feel like for Julius, his D'Angelo Russell against the Grizzlies moment, where just like it was clear after that Memphis series, D'Lo wasn't going to be here long term anymore, and maybe we kind of already had that last season versus Oklahoma City with Julius, but I think this series is another indicator of like at the very maybe even if you want to broaden it out like the Julius Randle Rudy Gobert starting front court pairing is just not it's not working well enough. Big picture. Obviously, they made the West Finals with it last year, and they made at minimum Game 6 of the second round. And there's only 6 teams left in the NBA this year. There's only 4 teams left in that spot in the NBA last year. Like they're one of the for the third straight year. Obviously, Julius wasn't here 2 years ago, but like for the third straight year, this franchise is, in my opinion, one of the 6 best teams in the NBA. And so at that level, like it has to be commended. And that like this front court for 2 straight years has been that good. But ultimately it's like it does feel like they're this good despite the Randall Gobert pairing not really working, not because of it. And that was a little bit to a lesser extent true with Cat and Rudy. So I do think this will end up being, assuming they lose this series in 6 or 7, I do think this will end up being kind of the referendum on Julius Randle and potentially his last kind of games in Timberwolves uniform. But I want to talk about Rudy too, because I actually don't. This game aside, where this game was poor, I don't view this series for Gobert as a failure for him specifically in the sense of I just think Wemby's just that good that really any team that goes up against them, if you have just a complete non-shooting entity out there, like even if the Nuggets were playing him with how Jokic is shooting threes, I think that would have been a real issue for Denver. Just having Wemby parked near the rim, and you just kind of would have lived with the Jokic threes, and we saw that in the Wolves series where he just wasn't knocking those down. But like certainly like a player like Gobert that doesn't even have like a mid-range game, obviously. It's an impossible matchup for him. And so I do think that he played 23 minutes in this game 5. It might need to even be lower for Rudy, and really just match it. Let's see how many minutes. Luke Cornett played 11 minutes. I don't think you got to go all the way down there with Rudy, but it might need to be closer to like 16, 17, 18, just because I really think that if there is a path to winning this series, it's with just going 5 out. Just try any way possible to get Rudy away from the rim or get Wemby away from the rim. And I think why, similar to the Julius stuff, where it's like, well, that's why I'm not all that optimistic they'll win the series because I don't see that happening. In the similar vein, I don't think they have enough good players or enough good shooters to do that really either. Because if you're not playing Rudy, I mean, they're not really like, if the other guys you're playing are Julius Randle, Jaden McDaniels, and Ayo Dosunmu, who are also been streaky shooters, then who are you replacing Rudy in the stand-up lineup with? Well, if it's Nas, the Julius Nas front court is not going to be able to stop Wemby. If you're bringing in Terrence, that's still really small, and you're relying a lot on Julius to, and that all these lineups are including Julius, who we just kind of raked over the coals. Like, a lot of times in these series, it kind of, you get to a point where it just feels like the lesser team is out of options. And I don't think that's fully true with the Wolves, but like for me personally, I'm starting to kind of, I'm not sure where they go. And to Rudy, like he didn't play well enough tonight, and you gotta always, he was sensational in the previous round, and the only reason they're here is because of Rudy Gobert. If Rudy Gobert was 10%, 20% worse in the last round, the Nuggets beat them. So I think it's less about Rudy and it's more about just how dominant of a defender around the rim Wemby is. And the only way to possibly get him away from the rim is to take Rudy off the floor. But I think ultimately then you're just kind of, you're not playing with your five best guys. So it just kind of feels like a catch-22 for the Wolves.
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple things that could be true. I mean, you talk about the dominance of Wemby and the dominance of just the Spurs' depth and their guard play. That's for sure a thing. They're playing well. They're hitting threes. I mean, there's guys like, you got Carter Bryant coming here hitting threes. I mean, he hit a couple of the other game as well too. You got Steph Castle playing pretty well. So, I mean, that's one thing. And then on the other side, yeah, the Wolves do feel like they are running out of options because one of their starters and one of their best plus minus guys, and as Finch called him, kind of the heart of the team. I mean, Dante DiVincenzo is not out there.
Yeah,
I'm not saying he would have fixed everything, but it definitely would have helped because now you get lines like Terrence Shannon going 0 for 4 from 3, where, again, there's a role for Terrence Shannon, but shooting three-pointers is not his role, right? And so I think, the depth is affected by that. I'm not the coach, and I'm not paid millions of dollars to be a coach. But I feel like if there's any levers left to pull for the Wolves, I feel like personally, eye test wise, it felt like the Wolves play best when they're in that swarmy. I mean, you mentioned that Grizzly series from was it 2022? I think it was, or 23, where they're kind of playing that amoeba defense with that Jared Vanderbilt, like, D'Lo in the backcourt, kind of quarterbacking it, where they're kind of flying around all over the place, because I feel like that's when they've generated the most amount of chaos for Wemby, because I feel like when they're playing Wemby straight up or they're playing Dylan Harper straight up, they're getting beat on those, even on simple, like, just pick and roll action when it's just kind of isolated on one side of the court. The Wolves are not beating that because their players, they just don't have the personnel to do that. They just don't have the talent to do that. And I think the way to muck it up is like, all right, switch everything. I don't want to say high wall, but definitely like crash, rotate, split out, make them hit threes. And I'm not saying the Spurs can't hit threes. They're one of the best three-point shooting teams in the playoffs right now. But clearly going straight up is not working. I think that's why we saw them get hammered so bad, is because, those one-on-one matchups just aren't working. There's not someone you could throw at Wemby to stop them. There's not one person you could throw, at, Dylan Harper. I mean, you talk about, Mike Conley had a good game today. The guards, he played well. I think Ayo played pretty well as well, too. I mean, he had, 5 stocks, 9 rebounds. He didn't shoot well from 3, but he was scoring really well. He looked a little bit more, I think, like himself than we've seen in a while today. So they got good guard play, but then at the same time, like, there's people who are giving it up. Like I talk about Mike. I mean, he's doing all he can out there. He got a couple stops, but they're still just kind of going at him on the defensive end as soon as he's out there. They're getting too many advantages on single switches. I feel like they have to rotate, they have to swarm, throw weird double teams at them. Everyone has to get in rotation. I feel like that might be the key, but it just feels like there's just another 30-point drubbing waiting in the wings. The Wolves are going to continue to do what they've been doing in this kind of point in time.
Yep. Let's finish out with kind of the downers from the starting lineup, which last point, Jaden McDaniels just hasn't been good. Kind of similar to Rudy in the sense of he was sensational last round. The biggest reason that they're here is Jaden McDaniels and Rudy Gobert. If those guys play, Jaden plays lesser in the last round, they're not here. But he hasn't played good enough in this series as well. He has 17 points on 13 shots tonight. That's fine. 3 of 7 for 3 is solid, but ultimately he picks up too many fouls. And the game really flipped in the third quarter when Jaden goes to the bench with with 4 fouls. The Wolves were down 3. They had recently tied it at 61, but the Spurs closed the third quarter on a 27-12 run. All of that with Jaden on the bench. And it's just like that was it. That was the game right there. The game was close. Jaden goes out. Now, obviously, there's a little bit of coincidence there, right? Like, Jaden wasn't the only one preventing a 15-point drubbing, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, kind of, but in both games 2 and games 5, the games are competitive until Jaden left the game with foul trouble and the Spurs wiped him. And that's to me, the Wolves have a lot of guys in this series that, like, you're like, well, I'm not sure they should play him. They might need to do this lineup, whatever. Jaden's one of the few guys where it's just like they just need to be able to play that guy as many minutes as they can.
Yeah, I do have to say, I mean, as far as like the Jaden foul situation, a lot of these fouls I feel like are not ones that he has to understand his value. Like he can't be the one committing these fouls. Like it's like these Wemby alley oops, and he's kind of crashing his like almost like I'm gonna make a point. I'm just gonna foul him because like I don't want him to get this easy bucket. Where it's like, dude, like it's not like Wemby is Mitchell Robinson at the free throw line, man. Like if you foul him, you know he's gonna shoot 2 free throws, or it's like it's not worth it. It's not. I think he had at least 2 of them in this game where it was like, yeah, he was crashing on the weak side or on rotation. He's like, I'm just gonna push him out, and because of that, he ends up with 5 fouls and plays outside. He plays just 30 minutes when we really needed him for at least 35. To keep it competitive.
Yeah, I agree. Like stupid backcourt fouls. Like you're right. Like obviously, like if he's playing defense, he's late to rotate over for his assignment, is out of position and fouls someone shooting the ball. Like those happen in the course of the game, obviously. But the one like just the frustration fouls, the ones in the backcourt or just like off, like all of those, like they need it. They're so important to what they're to everything of what they're doing. And in this series, other than the Ant, like he's their most important player, I would say. And he just wasn't good enough in this game. And obviously, more than Rudy and Julius, I would feel more confident about him bouncing back and having a better performances down the stretch of the season, especially because his role is more obvious. Like, or he's just more of a flexible player in that way. But yeah, just like flatly hasn't been good enough. The Wolves to win this series were always kind of behind the 8 ball, or like it was always going to be tough. And so I think like just basically they need guys to like outplay their 50th percentile game, right? Their average, what you'd expect from them to play. And Jaden has been this series slightly below that. And that's, I mean, how many 5-game stretches does every player, like has a bad 5-game stretch? And he hasn't been that bad, but ultimately it's just like they need like an A+ Jade McDaniels game back to back of them probably to win this series. And they haven't gotten in that kind of the big picture sense about the series. I know I said the thing about the offense, which I think like the X's and O's wise, that's it. Like they just need to find a way to score better when Wemby's on the court. That doesn't guarantee them to win, but like if they're going to win, like fundamentally they just need to score more. And I think just kind of seeing the reaction online, and I think it's fair. Any series you potentially lose or any game you're losing, like there should be like it's fine to have a level of not asking people to have like to smell the roses after a 29-point loss. But I just think I think expectations need to be set correct in the sense of coming into this series. I felt like, and this is why I picked Spurs in 6, was just like ultimately like, and we thought Ant was going to be out for at least the first 2 games. It was like the Wolves are down their best player to start, and he's still in. Even now, having more data, like Ant's clearly not 100%. Well, we can dive into Ant's game in this one too, but like they're just their best player is hobbled, and they're without Dante, and so you're going up against a team that won 13 more games than you during the regular season. Like this was, I think this is the Wolves playing well given those circumstances. How many other teams, if they're a best player, I'm looking at the graphic, Cavs Pistons on tomorrow night, right? If the Cavs are playing the Spurs and Mitchell was hurt, and who's their Dante equivalent, like Jared Allen or something, if they were missing Jared Allen and Donovan Mitchell was whatever ant percent, would they probably would not force game 6 of this series, right? If the Pistons, if Cade was hobbled and
They don't
I
really have a. I mean, yeah,
whoever
it's like
Duncan Robinson's played pretty well.
Tobias Harris. How about that, Tobias
Yeah,
Harris?
like whoever, if they were missing a
Yeah.
starter and Cade, would they? I don't think they would force the Knicks if Brunson was not 100% and
OG or
and
like
unfortunately OG
yeah.
actually is hurt for them. Like
Yeah.
maybe that's one team you could point out might be able to fight 4-6 given how well Cat has played for them. But like that's more my point is like I think people are kind of look. There's gonna be assuming they lose the series, and even if they win the series and lose to Oklahoma City, they're like the big questions are be like how does this team even ever beat these teams above them in the West, and that's fair. But I just think like for me that's a conversation I'm going to have, and I'm waiting for the actual offseason to have. But like right now, I mean honestly, before the series, if you told me the Wolves would be down 3-2 heading into Game 6, would have taken it. Honestly, we would have. And if now if you shift the expectation to Ant plays in Game 1, maybe you don't. But like I think it was always going to be extremely difficult for the Wolves to win this series. I don't know what percentage I would have put at it before the series, but like certainly like a third would be generous coming into the season or series. So like I was pretty negative after Game 3, I think, because that was the I reset my expectations then back to what they were before the series, right? And I think I I just don't think like in and of itself, given who's out, even if they lose on Friday night, like this was not a disaster series for the Wolves. And honestly, thankfully they beat the Nuggets because I do think this roster wise, roster building wise, I think that gives them a lot more information about their roster that I think will be very helpful when they need to make ultimate decisions on certain players.
Yeah, I mean the optics of it obviously look bad. I mean when you're losing by 30 or 29 or whatever, it's hard to be like, oh, that was good. But yeah, I mean I think coming in, I mean we knew like for a lot of us, including myself, and I asked Candace Hoopus on our Candace Pulses where we asked social media and everyone online to kind of vote on, is how would you rate the Wolves' success in the postseason? Like, is it already a success? Will it be a success if they make it competitive or if they beat the Spurs or win a championship, whatever? Almost 50% of people said that it was already a success because they beat Denver, and I would have said the same thing given the circumstances of injuries and all that. And so, I'm not going to go back and, reset and be like, oh, you know what? Like, this was a failure because it got blown out in, 2 or 3 games or whatever the case may be. So, I think I'm okay. Yeah, look, if they lose in Game 6, like you said, I'm with you. Yeah, it's not great, especially if they go out in a whimper. But it's also one of those things like we know that they weren't at full strength. Especially I think Ant and Dante. I mean, that's the biggest thing right there. Julius kind of reverted to literally the worst version of himself. And Jaden McDaniels, you talk about his offense and what Jaden means. I mean, Jaden shot 41% from the regular season. They talked about it on the broadcast today. He shot 41% from three, career high, and he's shooting the exact same or almost exact same amount of threes in the playoffs. He's hitting literally half less. He was making 1.4 threes per game in the regular season and 0.7 threes now in the playoffs. So he's shooting still 20%, and that's including the fact that today he went, 3 for 7 from three. So he had a good shooting game today. And I think him not being able to offer that perimeter threat, I mean, you talked about it earlier. It's like, yeah, we know Ant can still kind of hit threes. He's definitely not as efficient, since his injury. Iowa has been kind of spotty right now, and Rudy's not good. I mean, Julius Randle, my God, I mean, 0 for 4 today. I mean, if I look at the number right now, Julius Randle, if you had to pick a over under, I mean, do you think Julius Randle shooting above or below 20% from three in the playoffs?
Ooh, it's probably good, probably slightly above, but like,
I'm surprised he's shooting 25% from three, which is a lot
yeah.
better than I think he is, and I think that's a direct indictment on how bad it's kind of looked out there, right? So, point being is, yeah, they are lacking firepower, and I feel like there's I don't want to say clear path forward to winning a championship, but there's a clear path or clear vision of what's missing on this team right now. And given the situation, I think that's okay if they lose in Game 6. But I'm still holding out hope. I'm not lost yet on it. I do think that the Wolves as Na said, I mean, backs against the wall. That's when they tend to play their best. And I'm not saying that they're going to win game six. I also don't think they're going to lose by 30 points as well, too, in game six or even 20 points. I think it will be competitive. And then anything happens in game seven. So, we'll see. We'll see. There are some players that did play okay or did play good. But I'll let you kind of lead into the next player you want to talk about here.
Yeah, I just think to win this series, the Wolves are gonna need to have to play really well, and they're gonna need the Spurs to melt down just even a little bit, like we saw in Game 4 with the Wemby elbow, or just play poor. Like if the Spurs play a good game, play their game, they'll win this series, either one of the next two games. And so I think the path is there to like have another really loud crowd at Target Center. You win that one, and you just hope that like the Game 7 weirdness. I mean, it's basically like you're hoping for what happened 2 years ago against Denver, and that was an unlikely occurrence, right? I mean, that Game 5 against Denver was just as demoralizing.
Yeah, as this.
Probably
yeah,
more demoralizing, just as demoralizing as this one tonight. No one I don't think anyone expected them to win that Game 6 against Denver, and they won by 50. And then no one expected them to come back from 20 points down in Game 7, and they did that. And that's not to say that that means they're likely to win the series or anything. It's just it's greater than zero.
we saw it within the last 2 years, right? So
Exactly. Lastly, let's talk about Ant. I thought this was in all three games in San Antonio. I think those have been the games where we've seen his knee kind of affect him most or hinder him most. I thought he hit a bunch of really tough shots. Got to the line a fair amount. I think that the extra off days will help him a lot. But like on the flip side of that, if they do win this series, it'll have to be in 7, and I think the next series would start 2 days later against
short turnaround
against an OKC team that hasn't lost in the playoffs. So if the knee truly is like that, but obviously would love to have that problem at this point, obviously. But I thought I don't think he had enough after playing 40 minutes the last two nights. He plays 39. It might have made sense to kind of get him fewer minutes tonight once the game got out of hand, but easy to say that now. I think that maybe that's as much as missing Dante is huge. Not having 100% Ant is also just a gigantic thing because they're throwing doubles at him every time he touches the ball. If he was fully healthy, I think you'd see more zip coming out of those plays. He would be able to like navigate the double teams better. I thought he was fine tonight, but like for them to win a series against a team that they're probably overmatched against in general, they just need more supernova Ant, and I don't know if that's fair to expect that of him given his health.
Yeah, no one knows more than Ant what he needs to do moving forward in Game 6. I wouldn't be surprised if we post a low efficiency 30-point game in Game 6 here. But I mean, if you look at his game log, I mean, he went in his last 5 games, he goes from 18 minutes to 25, 24 is the blowout loss, and then 41, 40, and then 39 today. And so clearly the minutes restriction is off. He's coming off back-to-back 30-point games, and he's looked better and better, it feels like, in each of them. But yeah, today, like you said, he did get kind of taken out of it a little bit. I think it was Reggie Miller or Jamal Crawford, whoever it was on the broadcast today that was saying, like, Ant needs to get off the ball faster, which he was starting to do. Like, they're double teaming him at half court, and he throws the ball to someone else. And then, like, he needs to get back in the play. Like, the play is not over just because you give it up and you go skip, and then, like, a shot. It's like he has to pass and then move. I mean, you see the great guards. I mean, obviously, I'm not expecting him to be Steph Curry, but, like, Steph Curry do it. He'll get off the ball. You know what he's going to do? He's going to run around. He's going to run around some screens. He's going to create some space and gravity for his teammates, and he'll find a crease and get in there and get it back or get a shot up. And so there was one play in particular. I think that's when Reggie or Jamal said it in the broadcast, like, he has to get back in. Like, you can't just give it up and disappear. I remember during that play, the camera panned to the Wolves on offense, and Ant had given it up, I think, before half court. He never crossed half court again in that entire play. Like, he kind of stayed back, and I'm not blaming him for it because, again, when your knees are on fire, you're playing 40 minutes and, like, what is it, your 5th day now? It's that'll take a toll. You're like, look, we're down like 15, 16. I'm getting double teamed. Let me take this possession off because my knees hurt right now. Like, I can't understand that. But yeah, like you said, if the Wolves want to have any chance it's going to have to make up the ground for it. I mean, as much as we say if the Wolves have any chance, Julius Randle's going to have a good game. We're not putting a lot of stock into that happening, but we can actually put some realistic stock in, and maybe putting up a 40 ball, really, putting the Spurs in hell in rotation or whatever the case is. So, yeah, I agree. It wasn't his worst game. Definitely wasn't a great game, especially by his standards. I mean, 20 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. It's not great. I mean, I think he had, was it 4 turnovers or no? Is that what they have? Yeah, 4 turnovers. Yeah, which is not good. Some of them that I know he fired them, like some pretty crazy passes, kind of in deep, kind of just too much mustard on those passes up close. So I think he'll be better, and I think he knows. So I'm always kind of excited to see how Ant bounces back from a bad game like this.
Yeah. And I think just larger thinking, a lot of this, and again, we've talked about why it may be unfair to expect them to do this given the people that are out and given Ant's hobbled, but like a lot of this to me comes back to the regular season that they just, by their own admission, basically didn't take seriously. And I just continue to believe that, obviously, I think with that mindset, you can be, as the Wolves have, a very, very good basketball team. But to win 4 straight series, I just think that you have to, like, those type of habits have to be ingrained into your team during the regular season. And a good example of that, like, they just have not got back on defense really a lot in this series. And that's something especially, like, just doing that that was a problem during the regular season. Different defensive looks kind of throwing off the offense, and Ant and the lack of ball movement, all that was something that happened. A lot of the warts in this series are all happening during the regular season and were less about the construction of the team in terms of talent or skills, but in terms of like mental makeup or just mentally getting through that stuff and basically just like, we'll get better when we'll flip the switch when we get to the playoffs. And they did. They, like I said, especially in terms of the playoffs, they're one of the best 6 playoff teams in the NBA. But they're also a big step behind OKC and San Antonio, who both, OKC especially, like just, I don't think they got to be that OKC level of habits, right? But like, it's got to be closer. And so I think this Spurs series has really magnified a lot of that type of issues. And I'll be curious in the regular season next year if they're able to do that. And it's just like, I just kind of think like 49 win teams and 6 seeds don't win championships. I've said it a bunch of times this postseason run, like the regular season was not a success. We can set that aside. The Denver series was an unmitigated success, and that's awesome and that's fun. And we've had fun moments in this series. Not over yet, but trending towards obviously them losing the series, and that will be frustrating if and when they lose the series. Yeah, I think ultimately, like next season, like you just got to win like 55 games minimum if you want to try to win the title, and we'll see if we're getting towards the title or bust with on Ant's clock, right? I don't think it's fair to expect that from them now, and really probably won't ever really. But like, just keep taking hacks at it. Keep putting together 50 plus win teams, where the last two years you've kind of, at least from the regular season, have been short.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to save any talk about like you said, tabling anything about what they could do to quote unquote fix a roster, improve the roster, all that kind of stuff. We have plenty of time. I mean, the Wolves are not out of the playoffs, so I'm just curious to see how they're going to respond in the next game here on Friday. And so yeah, hopefully a couple days rest back in Minnesota. I mean, if you're listening to this and you're thinking about whether or not I should go to the game, please go. I think that the crowd. Again, I wasn't in Minnesota. I feel like from the TV for here in California, I've heard the crowd pop a lot more in more recent playoff series. I feel like it's been maybe not as high as I like to have seen it or loud as I like to hear it on TV there. So if you're going to the game, please go cheer hard because, yeah, you don't know how long. I mean, if you've been a long-suffering Wolves fan like we have, you never want to take this for granted. So enjoy the ride while you can. I mean, hopefully we'll see something special for Game 6 here. So, yeah, I'm not out on it yet. The Wolves are still alive, and we'll talk about what happens next after they're dead. But until then, I'm going to hope Ant goes off. I'm going to hope Julius gives us at least one, maybe give me 2 good quarters even. I hope Jaden could stay on the court, and have less than 4 fouls, in a game. And hopefully Rudy can, catch the ball and show off some of that dexterity he was showing in that previous series against the Nuggets. I mean, he was catching and finishing in ways we haven't seen in that first round. And so I like to see a little bit of that come back. Obviously, it's different given who he's being defended by now, but still, I think there's a lot of meat on the bone for him to get better too.
Absolutely. And I would just say enjoy it. I'm talking to myself as much as everyone else that, yeah, they might lose this game, but like how many years? It wasn't that long ago where we would have just been unbelievably happy with going down 3-2 in the second round and trying to win it from there. Like, obviously, like the Memphis series was a bummer, but like you look back fondly at that. And probably should mention, like, rest in peace, Brandon Clark, who was a gigantic reason Memphis won that series and unfortunately passed away today, seemingly in a tragic situation. But try to enjoy it. Like, even if they lose the series, I think it'll be frustrating in the moment. And one day when the Wolves are not in the playoffs, we're hoping that's like 10 years away. But like one day the Wolves before the end of the universe, we'll miss the playoffs again. And when that happens, we'll look back. You'll be able to look back at, even if like at this type of series, at Game 6 Friday night, you'll be able to look back at it fondly if you have the right mindset. So let's try to enjoy it. Like Leo said, a Friday night. If you're going to the game as a fan, get oiled up, as Ant said. Like do what you got to do. Enjoy the playoff basketball, because there's only so much basketball left in the season. Interesting kind of thing, I thought. The regular season ended a week or a month from today. It's insane how long the NBA playoffs are, and the Wolves are, whoever wins the title is not even halfway done. I guess OKC's halfway done.
OKC and New York's done. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm more meant like the playoff schedule's not even halfway done. Like, I think theoretical Game 7 is like late June, so like not even halfway done. We'll see if the Wolves can pull out a Game 6 on Friday night. But for Leo, I'm Ryan. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Go home, drive safe. Rest in peace, Jason Collins.
Go Wolves.
Hey, you!